Hi, I'm Sebastian,
And I'm Patrick.
and we met. It was all the way back in 2004. We were good friends for quite a number of years, and then decided to, I guess, to get together and become a couple back in 2010. We then married in 2015 at a band, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was nice,
really good, and kind of it was around 2010 that that we started to think about our future really and what that could be.
So for us, life before fostering, I think, was fairly typical of people our ages. We used to like going out to restaurants, we'd go out for drinks with friends, we'd have friends over. I think as we were getting a bit older, a lot of our friends did start to pair off and have their own kids. So there did become more of a thing where, we were going to kids' parties and kind of socializing with the adults in the kitchen and stuff while there were kids around. And we did definitely start to have a lot of conversations around, would we want kids in our family one day? And that was when we did start to look at the options, around adoption or surrogacy or fostering. And I think we decided to take the long approach where we would do it. We would make sure we were financially secure. We would make sure we kind of had the house and we were in the position where, we could actually support that extra part of our family and we could do it properly when we actually did finally.
Yeah, and we made sure, I guess, that we did the things that we wanted to do really. I mean, we had some amazing holidays. We spent 2 weeks in New York, which was amazing. And just before we became foster carers, we went and spent 2 weeks in Tokyo, which was just absolutely wonderful. It's really important for us that we kind of got that traveling out of the way. We still want to travel with children, in our future. But yeah, that was life really, kind of having lots of gatherings and being social and going to the cinema like all the time. We even had a membership card, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
When we decided that we wanted children, to be a huge part of our lives, we looked at kind of our friends and family really. Now, we'd always generally just assumed that adoption was going to be the way forward. I don't even think fostering even was entertained at first, wasn't it?
Fostering didn't, and we weren't really that bothered about surrogacy. I think for a lot of people that is the right way forwards, but in our family, my brother and his wife foster a little girl, and my sister has 2 adopted children as well. So children who aren't necessarily related by blood have always been, present in our family. So
we were quite lucky really, because we got to see like how a foster child kind of blended in with the family and how supportive the family were around welcoming them, and we got to see the impact of adopted children, like you said, and our friends did have 2 children via surrogacy, so we really got to see it all. And it was when we moved here, we had a party. Well, we didn't. We went to a party a few doors away, and one of the neighbours, they've been foster carers for over 20 years, and they just said to us, have you considered fostering? And at first, I was quite polite and I was like, oh, well, we'll have a look into it. But we did, and we decided that actually, the one thing you've got to remember is that all children in the care system have some form of trauma, and that trauma will manifest at some point. It could be straight away, it could be years down the line. And so for us, it felt right that working within the fostering system, working with professionals who were there to help you and to help the children, well, that felt like the right thing to do for us and for the child. I think also as well, like, I was in foster care briefly when I was younger. I spent about 5 months in foster care with my 2 siblings because my mum was recovering from cancer. And there are children who do want to maintain that connection with their family, and where adoption isn't the right or recommended way forward for them. So yeah, it just felt right, didn't it?
I think what puts a lot of people off of fostering originally, initially, we didn't really like the idea, I think, because first of all, you do get paid for it, and also there is this sort of setup for it being more like a job, which obviously, if you kind of like looking to build a family, that's not really what you're looking for. As Sebastian said, though, it is this case of I'd worked in mental health care just before we kind of took on our fostering journey, and you do see that people who have come from a background of trauma do really need that big support system there to help them, which I think fostering is the one place where you are likely to get that.
Yeah.
And it has been a huge help.
And I think it really does help to see fostering as well as a profession. We do a lot of training. We we get a fee as well. Coming through Capstone, which does help. It means that Patrick can be the stay-at-home foster carer, attending those meetings and making sure that he's doing the right thing and is there to support, along with myself, the children that we've got.
I think what attracted us to fostering at the end was I'd actually worked in mental health care before we began our fostering journey. And I think one of the things that you'll quickly realise with children who end up in the care system is that none of them, unfortunately, are there for a happy reason. Something has happened that's led to them being in this situation. And sooner or later, that is going to present as trauma to varying degrees. And some of it is going to be manageable and some of it is not going to be as manageable. And I think what was important to us was we knew that we would really value that support network there to help us through the traumatic times. When we were doing a lot of the reading up on children in the care system, you would see all the different ways that this trauma could present, and it was things where they wouldn't really have the wherewithal to be able to articulate what it was that they were feeling, but it could display as quite severe things like eating problems, or they could just start screaming because they didn't really know how else to express themselves. And it was this thing of somebody crying out for help without really realizing that they're crying out for help, or how to ask for help, or how to tell you what they need for you to help them. So it would be good to have that sort of team of experts there to kind of guide us through that sort of thing.
And I think we've been quite lucky as well, because since becoming foster carers, we've had some really good relationships with the social workers of the children that we've looked after, and also the support from Capstone has just been absolutely amazing, and it really did support our decision to choose fostering. Really, it made us feel like we'd made the right choice, not just for us but for the children. So when we decided, didn't we, that we wanted to foster, and where do you start? That's the biggest question, and it's a little bit overwhelming. So you turn to Google, and that's what we did. The first thing we read, which I recommend anybody thinking about going into this sector reads, is the Fostering in England report. They release one each year, and it really tells you what's going on in the industry. What the issues are, the challenges around different agencies, how children are feeling, just how many children are in in the care system, the lack of foster carers. So it gives you all of that background information, and from reading that, we decided that for us, we wanted to go down the route of independent fostering agency rather than local authority, and we decided that we'd start just by putting IFA, independent fostering agency, into Google and see what came up in our local area. And I did contact quite a few of them, probably 4 or 5, filled in the form online. And
was a bit hit and miss, wasn't it?
It was. It's no surprise really to say that some of them didn't even respond.
Yeah.
Which actually, just mirrored what the Fostering in England reports had said about how agencies, not just local authorities, but also independent fostering agencies, need to up the game a little bit and be more proactive in getting foster carers through. Now, when we contacted Capstone, we got a lovely call from a colleague who was really welcoming, and at that point we were kind of it was a year before we wanted to start the process, because we wanted to make sure that we had all of the information, and so the person from Capstone talked us through the process. We asked what kind of things we could do to help help us when it came to panel, and one of the things for us was getting some experience working with children, which we went on to do, and also had a look at some of the recommended reading, which was just fantastic. So having that conversation with Capstone for us, kind of sealed the deal really for us. It was Capstone, wasn't it, all the way?
In terms of the application process, I really think you're going to get different answers depending on who you ask, because it is a very deep dive into who you are, and some people would consider that to be intrusive, and in some ways it is. They're going to ask you a lot of questions, and they are going to, they're going to want to know about your exes. They will be asking you about how much you are drinking each week. Have you ever been a smoker? They'll kind of like be going through your whole relationship with your parents and your other family members. They'll really will want to kind of get the nitty-gritty on anything significant going in your life, really. And to be honest, like your caseworker that goes through all that with you will probably end up getting to know you a lot better than most of your friends do. We actually found it quite nice though. Like, I personally find it quite therapeutic, actually. You just sort of having this little chat about what's brought you to this point in your life and everything, and what have you learned from it. And I actually find it quite cathartic, I think, at the end of the day.
I know when we first applied, I had some concerns about things that had happened in my own past. Obviously, I've already mentioned that I went into foster care, but I would also say that my childhood, if you were to look at it on paper, it's got a lot of challenges in there. I've had to deal with quite a lot, and I was worried how that might be viewed when it came to applying to become foster carers. But the best thing that we did was we just explained it all to Capstone at the very start. It meant that when at the start of the application, when a couple of colleagues came out from Capstone to see us, we were able to talk about it. And I think that's the thing, really. If you're concerned that something in your past may be an issue, just talk about it, because a lot of the time, especially if it's issues in your past that that you're worried about, the key is have they been resolved, and how do you feel about it now, and are you able to talk about it? That's the main thing. And if you can, then that does help, doesn't it?
And I mean, to be honest, sometimes as well, it's actually quite beneficial, because it actually gives you a bit more of a worldly experience for things. At the end of the day, if you've kind of had a little bit of hardship in your life, it's character building, if nothing else, I guess. But
I think
it
as
also
well,
helps you to empathise with the kids that you're going to be looking after.
Yeah, and I remember, when we became foster carers, one of the courses that we did was around, trauma, childhood trauma, and kind of the impact it can have on brain development. And there's a number of different factors or kind of indicators that if all of these, or the more of these kind of indicators that there are, the least likely that there's going to be a positive outcome for that child in their life. But actually, when we looked at it, I mean, I'd hit all of the indicators were present in mine, but yeah, we were able to. Well, I was able to overcome it, and I wouldn't say that I had a kind of negative outcome. and I think that's important when you're foster carers, because you become foster carers because you want to make that difference, and you can make that difference, but by providing a kind of a stable home, really, and to give the children a chance to kind of move on from their trauma. And the assessment itself, for us, it was all through lockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were all through Zoom meetings, weren't we?
Yeah. Which was interesting, and we had some assessment kind of meetings together as a couple, and we had some separate. But yeah, I would honestly say the only person in this world that knows me more than Patrick is our assessing social worker. Panel was really nice, actually, which it might sound strange because panel's one of those scary things. For us, the most frustrating part of panel was being in the kind of the virtual meeting room on hold while our social worker, our assessing social worker, was talking to the people in the panel about us, because you sat there wondering, what are they talking about? And surely, it's gone on for too long. Why aren't we in there already?
Well, yeah, again, we were on Zoom. Again, this was kind of like when the sort of lockdown kind of alterations they made. So we were doing ours over Zoom, and we kind of logged on to have our meeting at 2:00 or whenever it was. And we were just sat in the waiting room for about 45 minutes to the point where we actually thought maybe there was a secret camera on us just to see how we were reacting whilst we were waiting, just to see if we went berserk under pressure or something. But yeah, when the actual panel started, everybody was very, very friendly and chatty. They asked us a couple of questions, which were just sort of things like...
yeah, I mean, I answered a question. It was around...
was it clothes?
Yeah, so the question was, how would you deal with a child who wanted branded items of clothing? And, for us, I think the answer I gave back at that point, and this is true for anything, because there's no black and white. It's always shades of grey with kind of the way that you approach things. And I kind of said, well, you've got to think about it from the child's perspective. So why are they wanting branded items? Is it because that their friends have got branded items? If they didn't have that branded item of clothing, then would that ostracize them? Would they feel different and separated? But then equally, you can't just buy them lots and lots of branded items, because one of our jobs as foster carers is to prepare these children for life, when they've moved on, at the age of 18 or 21 or whatever age that might be. And I think children need to learn, not just foster children, but all children, that branded stuff costs money. And it's a matter of opportunity cost. You've got to decide which thing are we going to have, which thing are we not going to have. And I think, that's the kind of answer we gave. And
yeah, the other question I think was around, I want to say it was drugs and alcohol. And I think it was just if you kind of caught your child using cannabis or something, what would your response be? And again, there isn't really a right or wrong answer, but we didn't kind of say, we would clamp down hard on that and tell them no and everything. It'd be more of the case of having that conversation. And, like if they are kind of drinking and you kind of react in quite an angry, punitive way, then it's not going to stop them drinking. They're still going to do it, but they're now going to be a lot more sneaky about it. And they're not going to be having conversations with you about it. So it's being able to kind of keep those channels of communication open with your kids, and kind of be a bit more diplomatic about dealing with things that might be a bit worrying in kids' behaviour. After that, though, the rest of the panel was just a lot of smiley faces. Everybody was very, very friendly and chatty. We didn't feel like it was a daunting situation or anything. It was, a very, very comfortable situation, and and for straight away, didn't they?
And a year on, actually, as well. You go back to panel a year later, and it was nice to see some of the same faces in our panel a year later, to have us kind of reauthorized. And yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
So yeah, panel's great. You don't really have much to worry about.
Yeah, they want you to succeed. They just need to double check.
Yeah. I think when children first arrive,
we had this moment, didn't we, where we got the phone call and they said, you know, you've got your placement, they'll be coming tonight, and you kind of jump around, you know, like, oh, brilliant, we've got it, we've got our first foster placement, and then like 2 seconds later, it's like, oh my god, we've got first foster placement, and you go into full panic mode. I kind of started like getting the rooms all set up, kind of just making sure everything was locked away, and
we did. The thing is we'd prepared so much that a lot of it, to be honest, was already sorted.
It's a remember your training thing, isn't it? But then we had 4 kids coming as well, which we probably weren't as it wasn't what we were expecting.
I think for me the most daunting thing when we got that call, because you know, you went off to buy some extra car seats because we only had a couple, and while you went off to get the car seats, I went off to go get some clothes, because the thing is you don't always know what clothing children in foster care are going to come with, so I just needed to get the basics. But again, you know, never having had children, suddenly having to go into a shop and buy clothes for all of these different ages, and you've never done it before. I mean, I just felt like Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman, and I just asked the staff, and I was like, please, I just need some help. You know, we just need to find these clothes. These are the ages, and I have to leave this store in like 30 minutes. But when they came, like, you know, all the children from the different placements we've had, it's always been quite nice. We've, you know, welcomed them in. We've made sure that they felt very welcome and used the names, and just remember that it's quite a scary and overwhelming experience for them, really. So it's about just making sure that, you know, you don't launch into the grand tour of the house straight away. You tell them where the toilet is, you know, because you don't want them thinking, you know, where's the toilet if they really need to go, and then you just get sat down, make sure there's something to drink, some water, and then let's just have a chat with the social worker who will be there, and include them in on that conversation. Really. So yeah.
So now that we foster, what is life like? It's definitely never boring. There's always lots and lots to do. There's always a lot of fun going on as well.
It's very structured though, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Routines.
Yeah, you do kind of have a lot of routines in place, but it is quite nice to do. It's a lot of trying to keep them stimulated. I guess there is also the thing of trying to introduce them to the things that you're interested in, which is hit and miss sometimes. You know, like they might like watching the same TV shows or things that you like. Sometimes they don't. They might like the same games.
And the thing is, as well, it's quite common for children in foster care, when they first come, you know, they almost want to kind of show that that they're your best friend, really, that they love everything you do. You know, so you might be there thinking in the early days, oh, these children, well, you know, they love playing chess. They love this, they love that. This is all the stuff that I love. But actually, as time goes on and that honeymoon period ends, they start to kind of reassert their own kind of personalities and become more comfortable in themselves. And that's when you realise that actually...
Yeah, but that's good, isn't it? Because you actually kind of start finding, rather than trying to get them into your interests or vice versa, it's you kind of like start finding the new things that you can both enjoy. Which means you actually maybe start finding a lot of new things about yourself.
We've become really good friends with all of the parents on the street, haven't we?
Yeah,
I mean, we were quite good friends before, but I quite enjoy going to kids' parties.
Yeah, yeah, some of our kids are about fun, aren't they?
Yeah, and now that we, you know, when we actually get the chance to watch TV, which isn't, I probably manage about an hour on an evening before I get really tired and have to go to bed. But like, you know, all of these shows where you've got these people playing parents, you can really, really empathise with everything that you're seeing on screen, because we're living it, aren't we?
Yeah.
And I think as well, like, I'd say that we, in a funny way, we actually communicate more with each other, don't we? Because every day we reflect on what we've done, you know, what kind of actions we've taken with the children, what's worked, what hasn't worked, you know, what we're going to do next time, and we have those conversations are constant, which are, you know, I think helps you become stronger as a couple. So yeah, gone are the holidays. But to be fair, everything kind of went in, with lockdown, didn't it?
Yeah.
And COVID. But on the flip side, we've got really good bonds with our neighbours, and really good experiences with the children. In terms of advice for same-sex couples who are looking to start a family, I would say try to think openly about what family is. And I think it's, for people in the LGBTQ community, we all know that family isn't necessarily the people who are blood related. Family is your tribe. It's the people that you choose to be with, and that the same goes with children. So whether that's adoption for you, or surrogacy, or fostering. I think when it comes to fostering,
I think it's something that should be considered that people aren't considering. We've got friends who will, in terms of the three main ones, adoption, surrogacy, or fostering. I think we have friends who've done all three, as in not individuals who've done all three of those things, but we know people who've gone through surrogacy. We know people who've gone through adoption. I think actually we're the only ones who've gone through fostering, aren't we?
Other than your brother.
No, but I mean in terms of the LGBT
LGBT,
community,
yeah.
And to be honest as well, there is no right or wrong way through it, because we know people who are very, very happy with all three of those things. But again, it's that thing where we certainly weren't even considering it. And like you say, with the surrogacy thing, if that is what's right for you, then brilliant, that is what's right for you. For us, it wasn't right at the end of the day, because it is very expensive, and it actually can come along with quite a lot of heartbreak as well, on whether or not the actual assimilation takes. And then also it's just a case of having that support group that comes with fostering that you don't necessarily get as much of in adoption. So it is, I think, really just kind of trying to bolster that awareness of fostering as an option that is, as a legitimate option to build your family.
I think as well, the LGBTQ community have got a lot to offer children. If you think about the experiences, I have to excuse our cat. If you think about the experiences that we've been through ourselves, that there's always been, probably fair to say, homophobia at some point we've had to deal with. We've potentially had issues within our own families around acceptance. We might have had, I guess not the type of love that we would have wanted. Not true for everybody though. And it's taking those experiences, and it's using that to help you empathise with the children that come into our care, who don't have the perfect family setup, but do have you, and do have that love and support that you can provide. And I think I would also say that, you might be there thinking that, well, I've had to deal with so much in my life, I'll never get past an assessment when they find out everything that's happened to me, or the things I've had to deal with. But actually, you've got to ask yourself, if you've dealt with them, then you've probably grown and are probably in quite a strong position to help other children. So I would take your own experiences of being in the LGBTQ community, of growing up, a little bit different, maybe feeling different to everybody else, and use it, because it's a strength, and you can absolutely make a massive difference to children that just need somebody, that need a tribe.